Along subclassing, there is a new heavy attack mythic coming with update 46, called Rakkhat's Voidmantle. This mythic increases the damage of your heavy attacks by 50%, but it causes them to no longer restore resources. Instead, your light attacks will now restore resources, but they will also deal 50% less damage. Today I want to give you my initial thoughts and show you my initial testing, and as you might have already seen on the thumbnail, I managed to parse 139k using this mythic on a 1-bar build. For comparison, my highest 1-bar heavy deck sorcerer parse on live server is 106k, and highest 2-bar heavy deck parse is 121k on a warden. Of course, the 33k damage increase isn't purely thanks to this mythic, because I'm also utilizing subclassing, but first things first. Let me first give you my thoughts and predictions on the mythic. I think it's going to get nerfed, and honestly it does deserve a bit of a nerf, although I'm worried because ZOS isn't known for smart nerfs. They usually swing the hammer way too much. You might think this is insane because a 1-bar heavy deck build doing 139k sounds insane, but to put it into perspective, regular builds, utilizing subclassing, are parsing 174k. So I feel like the Rakkhat mythic itself only needs a slight nerf, and the rest of the nerfing, if anything, should come through nerfing the subclassing system, if they're going to nerf it at all. I'm going to digress a bit from the mythic itself, but I feel like ZOS put themselves in a really tough spot, because subclassing increased the power creep by a lot. It's going to trivialize a lot of content if they don't tone it down. But at the same time, if they start nerfing things, with subclassing in mind, then people who don't want to engage with it are completely fucked. And judging by the way ZOS talked in the dev comments in the patch notes, I think they don't really care about people who want to stay with their classes. For example, they're changing skills and passive in Daedric Summoning to always be working around pets, and they're basically telling people who want to play no pet sorcs to simply swap it out for another skill line. Back to the mythic. It's extremely strong for DPS builds, but it's definitely not the play for solo. The whole reason why heavy deck builds are so strong for solo is the incredible sustain, which allows you to build way more tanky and use armor potions. Not to mention that using this mythic would mean not being able to use spell order, which is completely crucial for solo. And since it's a shoulder piece, you wouldn't be able to use Antilmir, which isn't just damage, it's also penetration. It's penetration you might not care about when DPSing, because your tank can provide it instead, but it's very useful for solo. Now for technicalities. When I read the tooltip, I thought this 50% buff would be additive with Empower and Of Balance, but it turns out it's multiplicative, so it's way more potent than I thought. On the live server, even on heavy deck builds, it's worth it to have lots of different sources of damage. Like for example, on the 121k DPS heavy attack warden build, I'm sometimes switching from heavy attacking to light attack weaving, just for a moment when I have lots of skills to refresh. And heavy attacks ended up accounting for 37% of total damage. With this mythic, this is never the case. Your heavy attacks are way too powerful and everything should be built around them. So let me show you how my testing went. At first, I simply took my 1-bar heavy deck sorcerer build, which parses 106k on life, swapped Antilmir to Rakkhat's Mantle and 1-piece Slimecrow, and by the way, Slimecrow was slightly nerfed and it wasn't in the patch notes. Then I switched the dark magic skill line to Assassination, which gave me access to Relentless Focus, which I could backbar for passive 600 weapon spell damage, access to Soul Harvest ultimate, and access to extremely strong passives. And with timing Soul Harvest with off-balance windows, I managed to reach 131k, which is a parse you might have seen on Reddit. Later on, I gave up Soul Harvest in favor of Power Overload, and Daedric Prey in favor of Killer's Blade, just to proc the Assassination's passives. With the Rakkhat mythic, Power Overload becomes something worth using throughout the entire fight. On the live server, Power Overload can be used to cheese parses, because you can start with 500 ultimate, and you can use Overload until you're at 170 ultimate, and then cast Atro, and then you just keep using Atro for the rest of the fight. But what I'm talking about right now is not that. I'm using Power Overload throughout the entire fight, though only during off-balance windows. Once I run out of ultimate, I use Power Overload every second off-balance window. And with this approach, I managed to get 139k parse. I feel like it could be even stronger in actual content, because you could have a support using Pillager set. And also, it's extremely bursty. The Power Overload ticks were as high as 240k, so if you need to quickly nuke some priority target, this is perfect for that. Because if it dies within 7 seconds, then you basically had off-balance window for the entire duration. I tried testing 2-bar builds, but bar swapping after a heavy attack on PTS was making me want to slam my head into my desk. I would swap to my backbar and then spend 4 seconds trying to cast a single skill while my character was just standing there. I will test 2-bar heavy deck builds when these changes are available on a server that isn't 8,000 kilometers away from me. But I have seen a 147k 2-bar parse from Cortec. And that's it for this video. I might do some more heavy deck testing in later weeks, once I'm sure Zos won't do any sweeping changes, but for now I don't see much point in continuing. At the moment I'll focus on finishing the Warden heavy deck build on live, and I'll probably upload hard mode fights of the new trial, once they fix the second boss. So yeah,